When the light settled over the ring and the noise of the crowd thickened into a single restless hum, there was a strange electricity hanging in the air, something between expectation and disbelief. Floyd Mayweather Jr., the undefeated master of 50 professional victories and no defeats, stood almost casually in his corner, hands loose, expression cool. Across the ring, John Gotti III, the grandson of an infamous legacy, the fighter trying to carve his own identity, paced with a tight jaw and a stare that revealed a hurricane of nerves, excitement, and maybe even reverence. This wasn't just a fight for him. It was proximity to a legend, a chance to swing at the very myth that shaped his own fascination with the sport. And as the final clearances were given and the referee signaled readiness, the arena seemed to hold its breath. The bell sounded, not with violence, but with promise. The first round began like a scene unfolding in slow motion. They moved toward each other, but only one of them truly belonged there. Mayweather flowed, smooth and unbothered, as though the ropes were an arena he'd built himself. Gotti, meanwhile, edged forward like a man unsure whether he was stepping into a fight or stepping into history. The commentators could barely see the action to the crowd leaning over them, bodies pressed in, cameras lifted, voices rising in anticipation of something big, something unpredictable. Floyd didn't throw much at first. He didn't have to. His presence alone set the terms. He hovered just close enough to be an immediate threat, but pulled away just far enough to remain untouchable. He was already controlling rhythm, like a conductor raising his hand before the orchestra plays a single note. Gotti's gloves were high, but they trembled under the weight of indecision. He hadn't even let one punch go yet. It was as though the reality of being across from Floyd Mayweather was more paralyzing than the punches themselves. The commentators noted it instantly. Gotti was stuck behind his own defense, glued to caution. Floyd, on the other hand, had come to entertain. He teased a range, sliding in with a smirk that made his intentions clear. This wasn't going to be a brawl. It was going to be a lesson, a showcase, a reminder of the gap between greatness and ambition. When he did throw something, sharp little hooks, quick bursts of speed, it wasn't with aggression. It was with precision, with theatrical timing designed not to hurt, but to humiliate. He showed Gotti that in this ring, it wasn't enough to want to fight. You had to know how to live inside the smallest fractions of distance. And Floyd was the landlord of that space. As the round continued, Floyd kept playing. He pointed at members of the crowd behind the commentators, directing attention, inciting reactions. The audience erupted every time he danced in and out, every time he landed something light but meaningful, every time he cracked that smile, the smile that said he could do this in his sleep. Gotti tried to launch something in response, but Floyd's head movement, his footwork, his timing, they created a world where Gotti simply couldn't touch him. It was becoming obvious early. This wasn't competition. This was performance. In the second round, things escalated not in danger, but in spectacle. Floyd began to open up, tapping Gotti with calculated blows that looked almost gentle, yet still snapped the head back. Gotti absorbed them with a frustrated grimace, unable to decide whether he should chase Floyd or guard himself from the constant teasing. And Floyd? He was now fully enjoying himself. He closed his eyes at one point, literally shut the mid-exchange, and the commentators groaned. It wasn't arrogance. It was boredom mixed with total control. He cupped his gloves over his ears, hands pressed like a kid pretending not to listen, daring Gotti to try something. Anything. And Gotti did try. He leaned in, searching for a path inside, hunting for a moment when Floyd wasn't simply slipping away like smoke. But every time he thought he had something, Floyd beat him to the punch. First to the jab, first to the opening, first to the retreat. The timing was too clean, too familiar. The man who built a career on not taking damage wasn't about to start now. Even past his prime, even in exhibitions, Floyd still moved with the sharp, efficient grace that made him the defensive genius of his era. Each exchange was a reminder. You can be stronger, you can be younger, you can be heavier, but if you don't know the language Floyd speaks in that ring, your voice won't be heard. As the rounds passed, Gotti's hesitation became its own kind of fatigue. It wasn't that he was tired from throwing too much. He was tired from not knowing what to throw at all. Floyd didn't give him patterns. He didn't give him momentum. He didn't even give him danger. He gave him puzzles, feints within feints, the cruel genius of someone who sees every angle a half second before anyone else. When Floyd doubled up the jab, it was like watching a ghost appear and vanish twice before Gotti could raise a hand. Between rounds, the commentary became more amazed and analytical. They talked about the legacy of Floyd as though they were narrating a documentary in real time. This was a man who hadn't fought a true professional bout in years, yet he was still bringing crowds, still commanding a spectacle, still orchestrating chaos with the flick of a glove. They remembered the press conference, the frenzy of the week, the reality that Floyd Mayweather didn't just participate in boxing. He turned it into an event, an atmosphere, a gravitational force. By the time the fifth round began, the tension in the ring shifted. What had been playful began to brew into something else, something hotter. There were words exchanged. Floyd and Gotti weren't just touching gloves anymore. They were firing verbal shots, spitting insults between the punches. It was a kind of escalating tone that seasoned referees recognize instantly, that moment when the air stops being amused and starts being dangerous. And the crowd felt it too. Voices rose. People leaned forward. There was that strange mix of thrill and unease, the kind that comes right before something snaps. The referee warned them, trying to calm the rising aggression, trying to pull the reins before the moment got away from him. But Mayweather kept talking, kept taunting, kept calling Gotti in, daring him to either fight or fold. Gotti, who had spent rounds trapped between respect and frustration, finally leaned toward the latter. His punches carried something different, not accuracy, not strategy, but emotion. That shift changed the atmosphere entirely. Then came the moment, sharp, abrupt, almost anticlimactic in its simplicity, when the referee decided he'd seen enough. Whether it was the verbal escalation, the loss of control, or the recognition that this had stopped being an exhibition, he stepped in, he waved his hands. He called it off.